As their casualties continue to grow, could Ukraine be pressured to make concessions? The mayor of Kyiv tells the BBC that peace talks can wait. The mayor of Kyiv, Vitaly Klitschko, has told the BBC that his country will only enter peace talks after the last Russian soldier has left Ukraine. Some Ukrainian officials have expressed concerns that their country may be pushed towards a peace deal with Russia as the war continues to put pressure on food and energy supplies. Well, Boris Johnson has meanwhile warned of Ukraine fatigue setting in after returning from his trip to Kyiv on Friday. Our correspondent Nick Beek reports from Kyiv.
The Russians killed Roman Ratushny on the 9th of June. Today, his father buried him before returning to the front line. A funeral for a 24-year-old who answered the call to defend his country. His grandmother, joined by hundreds who came to bid him farewell. With so many young lives being lost every day, some now ask whether Ukraine should make concessions to Moscow. Kyiv's mayor and former heavyweight boxing champion says it must not happen.
We'll be ready to talk with Russians about some compromise if last Russian soldier left Ukraine. This will be time to talk, but not yet. Russians have to go. Go from our homeland.
The coffin was brought to Independence Square, where they remembered the young democracy activist. A scene of public grief in an embattled and bereaved country. They may not all be on this scale, but funerals are taking place across Ukraine. We know that many Russian soldiers are dying too. Young lives continue to be lost in this war that Vladimir Putin started.
It's a big tragedy for Russians, for Russian Federation. The people not understand that right now, but I'm more than sure they realized very soon reality. Also, the Russians die. For what? Ambition of Putin?
Roman Ratushny's mother will not be the last mother to grieve, neither here in Ukraine nor in Russia. In this war of mounting pain. Nick Beek, BBC News, Kyiv.
Oh, just a little earlier, I spoke to Ukraine's former Defence Minister, Andriy Zagodornyk, who's in Kyiv himself, and I asked him what military hardware Ukrainians need and what they've been promised.
Let me start from the fact that Russia could not establish air superiority, which means the domination of its airplanes in the Ukrainian skies. And that means that they cannot fly over our territory and bomb us with weapons or missiles and so on. They do this, but they do this from the Russian territory, which means that the most effective weapon after combat aviation are the so-called multiple rocket launchers. So, which is a long-range firepower equipment, is a missiles which are shot from land, from a specialized equipment, which is known as MLRS, or in US it's called HIMARS. And this is what we've been asking, because this is the most effective in the artillery war, which we currently have in the east of Ukraine. There's been a discussion with the US that they're providing 4, and that's great, of course. Also, United Kingdom provides several. Germany last week said that they will give us a couple, but we need in a range of 100. So obviously, these are not numbers which would make a substantial difference and help us to turn the war effort into the counteroffensive, which we very much hope we can do.
So what's your understanding as to why it's taking so long and why the numbers are, when you talk about 4 compared to the 100 that you actually need? What's your understanding as to why the numbers are so low?
Every time when allies are providing us with new weapons, there is a period while they're discussing it and thinking whether that can escalate the war to something much bigger. What we're arguing right now is there is nothing to escalate into much bigger, because Russia is exhausting their capabilities completely. So there is no real risk of a third world war or whatever. But in any way, it takes time. And then as soon as the decision is made, then it takes time logistically to deliver. And we could be waiting for like weeks and weeks and weeks. And unfortunately, death toll in Ukraine is extremely high, and we are quite anxious to make this as fast as possible.
So what kind of an impact would that kind of weaponry make, say, in places like the Donbass, where the Ukrainian military is outnumbered?
Yes, and outgunned. We can stop Russian offensive, and we can actually turn it into the counteroffensive, and we can start pushing them out of our country. This is that much. So it actually can be a game changer completely.
And when it comes to the possibility of peace talks, when you hear words like Ukraine coming to a compromise, what does that make you feel? What do you see as a potential compromise? Is it even possible?
Those people who are saying like that, they don't understand Putin's intentions and his strategic goals. His goals are to destroy Ukraine. He has his own weird philosophy about that. He believes that Ukraine should not exist. Very similar to what Belarus is today. And we don't want that. We want to keep living as a free nation, and democratic nation. So unfortunately, those disagreements are so huge that unless Putin leaves our country, nobody sees realistically any real prospects for whatever compromise.